and welcome back to Unearth the Past, a family history and genealogy podcast where we delve into the lives of interesting people. I'm Dr. Michala Hume, and this week is part 2 of our Blossoms special. And can I just say huge congratulations to the band who have just celebrated their 4th UK #1 album. Well done, lads. Thoroughly deserved. It's a great album. Gary, if you haven't listened to it or bought it, go out and get it right this second. So that brings me nicely onto this week's guest. He is insanely talented, and I would say he's actually got the best laugh in the band. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast, the brilliant Joe Donovan. Joe Donovan.
Hiya.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
No, thanks for having me. I'm so excited. I've just come back from holiday, and Sophia will tell you that the other half. She was like, honestly, you've not shut up about anything apart from doing this. I was like, I can't wait for it. I'm so excited. Well, I was trying to I wanted to do look myself, but I was also like, I don't want to look at all.
No, don't.
Yeah, I didn't, don't worry.
Because he knows if you did, I'd have told him off.
I'm so excited.
Before we start, we have to mention Gary.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be people listening to this who think, what is going on with the Blossoms right now?
Yeah, why is there a massive gorilla everywhere?
Why is there a gorilla everywhere? And why is there loads of flags at Glastonbury saying who would name their album Gary? Yeah. That would be you.
Yeah. You know, we were up to 1 o'clock in the morning spray painting them flags.
I saw that they were literally handmade.
Yeah.
So if you got one of them, you're pretty special, weren't you?
Yeah, do you know what? We had the idea. It was actually Tom's wife, my sister, Katie. Yeah. It was her idea.
Right.
And we were like, it's such a good idea. We need to do it. So
okay.
We tried to get all the flags made, and basically no one could turn it around that fast. We were like, we're going to have to do it ourselves, and we're like, how are we going to do it? And then Miles was like, oh, we could stencil it. And I was like, what a genius idea. So yeah, managed to go to the drum company where I get my drums made. They're in Stockport. Yeah. They've got this big laser cutter. So they cut the stencil out for us. Then, we just bought some spray paint from B&Q. There we were.
I was so impressed.
It blew my trainers, though.
To be fair, there's no end to your talent, is there? There's no end.
Oh, that's not very nice.
It's quite hard. I tell you what, I've not lived in my house that long, and yesterday I was painting. I've still got paint on my hands. Isn't it really difficult? People are going to think it's easy, but it's hard, isn't it?
I've recently just done a house up.
Oh.
It's been me and Sophia found our dream house, sort of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Done it all up. We did a lot of it ourselves, and
are you still together after that?
And can you believe it's definitely the biggest test of trust and relationship.
It's hard, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is.
It's hard
when you don't have a kitchen and stuff, and you just
the
idea of living off takeaways is a dead fun and oh my god, guilt-free takeaways, and it lasts about 2 days. You're like, I cannot do this anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I need food.
Yes, I just want some fresh food.
Right, can we start?
Yeah,
your family
please.
Tree, because we have got so much to get through.
I'm so excited.
So I have given you a copy of the tree just for you to look at any point, because we're going to be going through it at speed, and there's a lot to get through. So please feel free to have that somewhere where you can see. So I'm going to start then with your dad's side of the tree.
Okay, Donovan's.
The Donovan's side of your tree. Now, what do you know about the Donovan? Now, I know, because we've spoken on the phone.
Yeah.
And this is my childhood, that your family owned a shop on Castle Street in Edgeley.
Yeah, the trimming centre.
The trimming centre. My mum's going to be watching this now going, the trimming.
Really? Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my dad, my dad, my nana and granddad owned a haberdashery shop.
Right, okay.
That's the trimming centre, and sold buttons. And my dad, I think it started off as a market stall just on Stockport Market.
Really?
Yeah, and then they got enough money together to then buy the shop. They were quite well off, as I remember. They lived in a nice house in Offerton near the Strawberry Gardens. There's a few houses there on that same road a bit further up. And they really, my dad says when he was a kid, do you know what I mean? He was they used to go on cruises and stuff, and obviously that's quite bougie.
Now, it's funny you should say that, because the first record I have for your granddad, his name is Alan, is from 1958, and I'm just going to show you this record.
It's going to say something I don't know.
She says, are you nervous?
Yeah, because he was a bit, he was funny, but also a bit cheeky.
Right. I don't know if you can make out at the top what it might be.
British Commonwealth. I don't know a clue what it... Oh. So it's the cruise thing. It's obviously a boat.
Yes.
Land in the port of Liverpool. From Africa.
Yes, Nigeria.
Yeah, do you know what, weirdly, I don't know. There's been some. My dad's mentioned every now and then, or like my granddad works a lot overseas.
Right.
So is it his name?
You scroll
there
down.
It is. Yeah, Donovan Allen, Donovan Joan, Donovan David. So that's obviously that's my dad's oldest brother. Wow. Yeah, Stockport. 22 Thomas Street, Edgerley. Railway workshop foreman. So that was his job?
Yeah, so that was his job.
What is that? What's a railway workshop foreman?
A foreman is obviously somebody who's managing a group of people, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Right?
No, because I know my granddad was really good at like engineer. He was a bit of like he had like an engineering background, I think. Because like I remember when I was little going into his shed and there was like tools and stuff, I'd pick them up and he'd be like, I made that. You know what I mean? And I was like, what? It looks like a proper tool. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And so I know he did a lot of stuff like that. But
have you inherited any of those skills?
Yes.
Really?
I think if you spoke to people in my family or like in the band,
Yeah.
they'd be like, if you need something doing or like logically,
Yeah.
it's me. Do you know what I mean? Like there's some things like weirdly, and this sounds counterintuitive, but like musically, I'm not that talented. Do you know what I mean?
He is. He's
No,
a liar.
I'm not. And I say that.
I've watched him play the drums.
Yeah. And that's no, and it's weird because I've never done a drum lesson.
What?
No, but then none of us in the band have ever done a lesson. Like we all did like little music lessons in school to get out of science or whatever.
Yeah. You know what I did at Bramall High?
Go on.
The violin.
The class. So yeah, that's a better instrument though. I wish I
honestly, my mum must have spent a few £100 on this violin.
Oh,
Literally gave it up after 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was like, this is really hard.
I can't do this.
Yeah.
I did that with a guitar. So
Did you?
Yeah, I picked up a guitar. Mum and dad bought me like that, like guitar and amp things. Couldn't do it.
Because I was actually having a debate the other day about what is the hardest instrument to play, right? And I think the drums is solid.
Do you know what I think it is? I think you should try every instrument until one hits you naturally.
Yeah.
And that, like drumming to me, it feels so natural. Like to do them thingy feels, and don't get me wrong, there's certain bits that feel very unnatural, but
Right.
there's some bits that I don't know as an instrument. But like trying to do chords and stuff, like I can play a few chords now on the guitar,
Yeah.
but it took me it didn't hit me. I had to really sit down and want to learn guitar, and obviously I can't play guitar still. I can just play like Wonderwall or something.
Is there any instrument that you would love to play that you don't play?
I don't. Maybe it is the guitar.
It is the guitar.
But then, weirdly, like I say, I love drums
Yeah.
and I love being a drummer.
Yeah.
But if I want in a band, I wouldn't be a drummer.
Do you not think though that's like the sexy thing?
That's what
to
I love.
do?
I love being in a band.
Do you know
Like
what I
being in a band for me is like that's what I want. When I wanted to be in a band, I didn't know what instrument I wanted to play when I was younger. I just wanted to be in a band.
Wanted to be in a band.
Yeah, I love being with my best mates.
Yeah.
Us five as like a gang in a band.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
And I watch your podcast. It's a great podcast, by the way. Check it out on YouTube.
After this, obviously.
Right, obviously. It's a brilliant podcast.
Thank you.
But you definitely see the camaraderie
Yeah.
and the tightness of your group.
I think that's why that was one of the biggest things because I wanted to do the podcast. Podcast was like my idea.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because I was like, you know what, we're like, you don't really see a lot of bands quite like to keep themselves quite closed
Yeah.
and closed off and quite mysterious, which is cool. And I like
Yeah.
that about bands.
Yeah.
But we're also like the opposite of that, where we're like very open and very like silly and very like,
And I love it.
yeah.
I love that about you lot.
We're called Norman Gary, aren't we?
Well, not only that, you feel like personable. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you're my
that's
mate.
nice, yeah.
Obviously they are, but I feel like you're
No, that's a nice thing. I think that is one of the things as well though that we want to do.
Yeah.
Because I think it's nice to be like that. And it's one of the things that I love, like say Arctic Monkeys, for example.
Yeah.
And they're like the opposite, where it's like
Right,
quite
okay.
mysterious, quite closed
Right,
off. You
okay.
never know where they are. Do you know what I mean? It's all
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and it's all very cool. But
Yeah.
also, I love any little bit. I'm always like, oh, like when they used to do the little, Matt Elders used to do the podcast, I just want to listen to that. Or
What
so
they do.
with us, I was like, I quite like it being open and people can just come straight in, listen to us every week, chat. Do you know what I mean? Know a
Which
lot
I
about
love.
us. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, go- yeah.
Do not let me talk again. Let me tell you, I've got so much to get through. Right. I'm going to just motor on.
Yeah.
Right.
So that was them coming back from Nigeria.
So that was them in Nigeria. I managed to go back further than that. So in 1939, just before the war,
Yeah.
I've got your granddad on another record, and this is called the 1939 Register. And if you scroll down right to the bottom, you should just see his name.
Yeah. Oh God, that's with all the Donovans are there.
So that's just before the war.
So that's 20.
So they are living, as I say, on Thompson Street, number 20, which is in Edgeley. His parents, Alan's parents, as you can make out from the 1939 register, are, which will be your great-grandparents, are William Francis Donovan and Annie Grattan. Remember the name Grattan because we're going to come back to that.
Right.
Grattan. Now, William Francis Donovan and Annie Grattan, they married in Bollington on the 3rd of September 1921. And I have their marriage certificate from 1921 if you'd like to see it.
Yeah. Bollington as well, it's not far. White Nancy.
Not far at all.
Wow.
So I don't know if you can make out any of those words.
I'm
I know
rubbish.
I know, and can I just say, I know the handwriting is appalling as well.
But it's quite beautiful, though, isn't it? I wish my handwriting was like that. Mine's terrible. mine like you can't read it and looks horrible. This has got one tick. Do you know what I mean? Rank or profession? Inquisitor, is that?
Let me have a look. I can't. So we've got William Francis Donovan. He's 24 years old. He is a bachelor, which means that he's not married. He's an engineer. His dad is also called William Francis Donovan. And he is a blacksmith striker. So not on horses. He's working in probably like metal factory, something like that. Then we've got Annie Grattan. She's 31. Her dad is John Grattan, and he is a stone sawyer.
Like a stonemason?
Like basically a stonemason.
Right.
And we're going to come back to Annie Grattan, but I want to draw your attention to John Grattan, stonemason. We're going to come back and revisit that. But let's keep going with the Donovan.
So already, it's still quite, they're quite hands-on jobs, but quite...
Very good with the hands.
Yeah, but I was going to say it's not just like foreman or like, do you know what I mean? It's quite like specific.
Skilled,
skilled jobs.
Yeah.
Like it's interesting that.
In 1911, William Francis Donovan is living at 31 York Street in Edgeley. And he's living with his parents, and his parents are called William Francis Senior and Sarah Ann Sharples. They're your great-great-grandparents. I have a picture, if you'd like to see it. See this picture here?
Can I pick it up?
Yeah, that's York Street in Edgeley.
Is that still a street now?
No. Well, I think the street might be there, but the houses have gone.
Right.
The houses went during slum clearances.
God.
So that's York Street.
Okay.
Can you describe that for anybody?
Well, it's just a very stereotypical northern terrace.
Yeah.
Like proper factory housing, I'd say. Which is weird because if you were saying he was...
Well, he was an engineer, wasn't he?
Yeah, so...
His son was an engineer, dad was a blacksmith striker, so we think that his dad worked some iron, something to do with that. So
would that have been in some sort of factory then?
I reckon, yeah.
And that's why, obviously, that explains the housing situation. Yeah. Right. So even though it's a skilled job and a skilled thingy, I mean, it still was like...
Yeah, it's a skilled labour, isn't it, almost?
There's me thinking it might have been a royal.
So you wanted to be the first band member that was like, you know...
I knew it wasn't going to happen. Do you know what I mean?
But good people.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
So they're living on York Street. As I've mentioned, his parents are William Francis Senior, also called William Francis, and Sarah Ann Sharples. So they would be your great-great-grandparents. I've got a copy of their marriage certificate from 1873, if you would like to see it.
God, yeah. 1873, you've got a copy of it.
1873. So I don't know if you can see that there.
Oh, the handwriting's improved a bit, hasn't it? I thought it was a piano then.
So you should make out from that record, I don't know if you can see that his dad is called Jeremiah Donovan.
Where is that?
So scroll right across the top.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Jeremiah Donovan. Jeremiah? What a name.
I know.
Was that a common name then? Oh.
It was quite common, but it's in fact you go from William Francis, and then we go to Jeremiah.
Jeremiah. Heaton Norris.
Heaton Norris, yeah.
Wow, so that's still... So what year?
73.
And we're still Stockport.
Still Stockport.
Burnage as well.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much Stockport, isn't it?
It's pretty much Stockport, yeah.
Yeah.
Did you think the Donovans would be Stockport?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I always knew, like when I've heard my mum and dad talking over when we saw it, there's never been anything like, oh, and they came over from, I don't know, somewhere else. It was always just been Stockport, Edgerley, Stockport. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So Jeremiah Donovan, your great-great-great-grandfather, was born in 1825 in Heaton, Norris. And he was a shoemaker. Again, skilled job, using your hands. We have that throughout the Donovans, right? In 1846, he marries Eliza Skerritt. And they get married at the cathedral in Manchester.
Oh, the one...
Yeah.
I drove past that on the way here.
Did you?
Yeah.
So they get married at the cathedral in Manchester. Now, on the 1851 census, Eliza is living with your great-great-grandfather, William Francis, but he also goes by the name of Frank, on a court off Adlington Square, which is in Stockport. I'm going to show you that now. I'm going to show you a picture of that. So this is 1851.
Yeah.
So this is where Frank is living with his mum in 1851.
Wow. It's tiny, isn't it?
Yeah. Now they're only occupying 2 rooms.
Okay. So the like obviously at the time everyone was squeezed into
Everyone was squeezed in, back-to-back housing.
So it was just him and his mum in there?
Just him and his
Well,
mum.
into the 2 rooms.
So there's somebody missing there, and that's Jeremiah.
Yeah.
And I'm like thinking, where is Jeremiah?
So he obviously something's happened to Jeremiah.
So I find Jeremiah on the census in 1851, but he is not living with his wife and his son. He's in Knutsford, and I don't know if you can make out that word at the top there.
Prisoner? Oh, Jeremiah was naughty.
So Jeremiah is in Knutsford prison.
And that's Knutsford Prison?
Yeah.
Is that still a building now?
It is.
And do you know what he did?
No.
Really? No! So he did.
So, I don't know what he did, but I can tell you that I think he's in and out of prison throughout the 1850s. And on the 1861 census, she is living with her family, the Skerritts, and he's not on the census.
Right.
So he goes missing again. I don't know where he's in that census. Actually can't find him, full stop. But I know he's in prison in Knutsford.
Right, so these are my great...
So if you...
So yeah. Oh my... Right, so Donovan...
So Jeremiah is your great-great-great-grandfather.
Yeah, so he was naughty.
He does get released from prison.
Just of your, like... What was the thing that commonly would be... I mean, I suppose
It could be
so
stealing,
open in it. Yeah,
you don't
it's
know.
too open.
Yeah.
But would they...
It's not murder.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's what I mean. I was like, is the reason you can't find anything about it because it's like, say, not in the newspaper? Or do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything like
So
that?
it's not in the newspaper. I've searched the newspaper.
Okay.
It's not in the newspaper. So I think it's petty crime.
Right.
Right.
Which, do you know what? That, yeah.
Now, he does come out. I know he comes out because he has a couple of other children, right? So he does come out.
With thingies.
With her,
right.
right. Now, I do find him on another census, a later census in 1871, and he's listed himself as a widow. And he's remarried.
Right.
I haven't found any evidence that Eliza has passed away. She may have passed away. Maybe she remarried and it's just not come to me. But he's listed as a widow and he remarries a lady called Mary Burns.
Right.
He dies in 1877. Now, I'm going to go back just slightly. I'm going to show you Eliza's marriage to Jeremiah. So Eliza Skerritt's marriage to Jeremiah.
I can't believe he's out of prison.
So, as I've mentioned, they got married at Manchester Cathedral.
Yeah. The same.
Yeah. So, on the bottom row, you should see Eliza Skerritt.
Yeah. Age.
And I don't know if you can make out the name of her father.
Willow. William, obviously not Willow.
I like Willow.
No, yeah. Well, do you know what I mean? Since Jeremiah now, my mind's open to any name.
Yeah, where's it going?
So what does he say?
Now, she calls him a waste dealer. I'm going to pick up on that now.
Waste dealer. Is that something to do with sewage? Or
Dealer.
That makes us think of waste, like either rubbish or...
So that is a posh way of saying he's basically like a rag and bone man. Do you ever when you were a kid and he used to come out and shout rag and bone?
Yeah.
On
like,
the horse and cart.
Yeah, any old iron.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
You're there. He basically collects waste.
He just thought about the environment straight early doors.
He
just what to recycle straight away.
However,
No.
in 1838, he appears in the local newspaper.
Okay.
And that's because 5 lads called 2 brothers, William and John Port, James Partington, Enoch Hyde and Thomas Clarkson, stole some iron from Park Mills Yard in Stockport. Now, the lads hid the iron under Portwood Bridge and then took it to William Skerritt and another iron dealer called Joseph Clark. The youngest of the Port brothers took actually 2 lots of iron to William and he bought the iron. However, he also got offered a 3rd lot, which she refused. I think he was a bit concerned about where the iron had come from and said, look, I'm not going to accept anymore. I'll only accept it if it comes from your dad. So
Right.
in other words, I want to know it's...
Yeah, legit sort of thing.
Yeah. However, the police come and raid Skerritt's yard and they also raid another man called Clark's yard and they find the stolen iron.
Right.
You see where this is going? So this then goes to trial at Knutsford
Prison.
Court. Well,
Right,
court
yeah.
and prison. Yeah. It's a really serious case. It's so serious that the mayor and the magistrate are presiding over the trial of what's happening.
For a bit of iron.
Over a bit of iron. Now, Clark, who was the other man who was also a dealer,
Yeah.
right, who did sold to, had a couple of, what you'd say, maybe distinguished people speak on his behalf,
Right.
verified his character, said, he's a really good person.
No, yeah.
He,
Been to his house for dinner, all that.
yeah, went down the naivety route, he's only just started dealing in iron and he wasn't aware that they were stolen and all that. Anyway, Alderman Slack, who's presiding over it, who's the magistrate, with the mayor, basically discharged him, Clark, and
Right.
said, you know what, fair enough. They let him go.
But
They didn't do that with William Skerritt.
of course he didn't, yeah.
Of course they didn't. The magistrate said if there was no receivers, there would be no thieves. Now the reporter...
I'm quite angry now.
I'm furious. Now the reporter in the newspaper at the time is puzzled by this. And even the reporter who's writing for the local press says they really don't understand both what Skerritt did and Clark did was identical,
Yeah, it's
right?
about the same thing.
Identical. And Clark gets off. And Skerritt, and I know because I found the newspaper articles, by the way, which you will get, on 2 separate occasions helped the police and alerted them to goods that were stolen.
And he turned down the 3rd lot.
Right? Yeah. So he had previous for helping the police, right?
Oh, sorry, on a separate occasion?
On separate occasions,
Wow.
uncovering stolen goods. And like what you said, he didn't buy the 3rd lot. He refused it.
Yeah.
And he
Because then it's hard, isn't it? Because then if someone comes up to with iron, that's his job. He's going to take it. But then if he smelt something and gone, oh, I'm not going to buy anymore
yeah.
because...
Yeah, and he has previous for helping the police. So the trial takes place in Knutsford on the 28th of March, 1838. William is found guilty and he's sentenced to 7 years transportation. So transportation is when you are basically sent to Australia.
Wow.
So he's found guilty and he gets 7 years transportation. Bear in mind, he's never been in prison before. Right? So he's never been in prison before. So he's transferred from Knutsford and he's transferred to what's called a hulk ship, which is a ship that's sat in a dock near London. And you stay on this hulk ship, which is like a floating prison, until you are transported to Australia. And that takes months, by the way.
Is it just like when the ship's full, it goes?
Basically, right? So you are then put on a ship, you are transported to Australia, which takes months. If you survive the journey, that's a miracle. Then when you get there, you're put to work. So you're building roads, right? You are building infrastructure. He gets put on a hulk ship he was on that hulk ship for 3.5 years. He would have woken up at 5 o'clock. He would have spent his whole time shackled, and he would have worked till well into the evening. After 3.5 years on board the hulk ship, he gets a pardon. And he's pardoned on the 30th of October, 1841. I've got a picture of the hulk ship that he was on.
Really?
See it. Yeah. So this is a picture of the hulk ship that he was on.
It's mad because it's like, to describe it, it's not what I had in my head.
No.
It's quite like fantasized and dreamlike, I'd say. Do you know what I mean? Like sails and like,
Yeah.
it almost looks like a pirate ship. Do you know what I mean? It's the ship that you sort of look at as a kid. Obviously, I can imagine a completely different
Where
thing.
we know it's hell on earth.
Yeah,
inside
exactly.
there.
Yeah, I can.
Yep.
So what? I need to know more about the pardoning.
So he gets pardoned. He's pardoned on the 30th of October, 1841. I imagine because for me, it feels like an injustice, right? It feels like he should have never have been in that situation anyway.
That seems like a harsh sentence as well for something.
Well, stealing.
Yeah, stealing. Yeah.
In those days, it had, not like now, but the sentences were really harsh for stealing. He was reunited with his family, and he died of liver disease in 1845.
So that's 2 years.
So that's 4 years after he's reunited with his family. He dies of liver disease. I know he's reunited with his family because his son Joseph is present at the time of death. Every quarter, the authorities basically released an inventory of everybody's on these ships. I've got all those records for you to sift through at a time that's convenient for you. He comes across as very healthy, very fit guy when he's on board the ships. His character is good, but he does get a pardon. He doesn't go to Australia, but as I say, it takes 3.5 years.
Why would the pardon have come in? Would that have been people at home?
I think so.
Campaigning about it and saying, and other people getting involved, being like, how, like just sort of the outrage of it.
Yeah, I think he did help the police. As I say, I've got those articles, right? And a guy who did exactly the same of him was discharged.
And there's nothing at all.
Nothing at all.
And then the guy's like, do you go to Australia or you get on a whole ship?
3.5 years, which must have been hell on earth. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, and it will be back in just a minute. But I would like to take the time to talk to you about an organisation that is really close to my heart, and that is The Power of One. The Power of One is a non-profit organisation founded by the fabulous Samantha Hutchinson, which supports women across the world who work in the animal welfare community. There are currently thousands of women across the globe who are fighting to improve the lives of animals and make their communities safer by reducing the spread of disease. They are working really hard to reduce the number of animals on the street through rescue, providing rehabilitation, rehoming, and spray and neutering campaigns. They are also raising awareness through education in local schools and improving public perceptions of the cities, towns, and countries in which they live. Now, this industry relies almost exclusively on public donations, and many women risk their livelihoods and, in some cases, even their lives just to be a part of it. Funding helps to create jobs, it supports families and local businesses, and provides access to education and much needed mental health support. If you get chance, and look, I know times are hard, but if you get chance, please just check out the Power of One website. I've put the details in the podcast description. And even just tell people about this organisation, this wonderful organisation, and what they are doing to help animals, and especially dogs. And if you know me, you know I love my dogs, around the world. Now back to the podcast. I want to go back a bit, right? So I mentioned to you, didn't I, your great-granddad, William Francis, married Annie Grattan in 1921. They married in Bollington. I've mentioned what we got from that marriage certificate was that her dad was called John Grattan and he was deceased at the time of their marriage. What you picked up on, which is what I wanted you to pick up on, was the fact her dad was a stonemason, right? And I want you to remember that. Now, Annie's mum is called Elizabeth Goodwin, And she was born in 1866.
Mm-hmm.
And she was 3 years younger than John. John, your great-great-granddad, was born in Bollington in 1863. And at the age of 7, he was working in a rope yard. And by the age of 18, he was working as a labourer in a stone quarry. Now, in 1885, he marries your great-great-grandmother, Elizabeth Goodwin, at the parish church in Prestbury. And I have them on the 1891 census. They are obviously married, they're living together, and by this point, they have 3 children. One of those children is Annie, who would be your great-grandmother. The next census I have for the family after that is the 1901 census. The Grattans are now living on Hurst Lane, which is in Bollington. But there is a notable absentee, and that is your great-great-grandfather, John Grattan, the stonemason.
It's not on it.
Gone. He vanishes. Gone.
There's nothing, no.
Nothing. He doesn't die. He's not on any British census at all.
Right.
He literally disappears
Into thin air.
overnight in thin air. But I do find him.
I love that. I love that pause then.
Did you like that, Paul?
Yeah.
But I do find him. I find him on a ship. On a Cunard ship called Campania, which left Liverpool and arrived in New York in 1896.
Wow, I love New York. So he just went
disappears.
So he just went to New
overnight.
York?
So you won't be able to make this out because the handwriting is atrocious. But this is the record that I found him on. The reason that I found him was because of his age, because of his job, and because of where he was from. The stonemason was the key.
So that's how you tracked.
That's how I tracked him. So in 1896, we find him basically arriving in New York.
God, it's like them, like if they see in the films, you would have got off and then like everyone would have queued up.
Yeah.
Oh God, I won't even be able to find his name, will I? Oh, it's right at the bottom, isn't it? Yeah. Intended destiny. It just says so. His
New
intended
York.
destiny was New York.
New York.
So he didn't. He literally was like, "I'm going to New York," and that's it.
Yeah.
God, so he. Wow. It's weird because that's the first bit where it's like Stockport, Edgeley, Prestbury, Bollington. It's all like so like, God, and he got out and went to New York. But well, let's say got out, mate. I'm sort of romanticising this. He's left a family, or he's left his wife
and kids
just to go
to New York. Do you want to know what happens to him in New York?
Yeah.
So he goes to New York. He is on board the Cunard ship, the Campania. I've got a picture of it if you want to see.
Yeah, 100%. Is this? Am I going to romanticise this ship as well? So this is, I imagine.
So this is the ship in Liverpool.
Oh, wow.
He could have been in that crowd. It's the right time.
Really? Let's say yes. So this ship is like a mini Titanic vibe.
This was the most luxurious ship at the time.
Wow.
So you're probably wondering then what happens to him in New York.
Yeah.
Well, by 1910, he's no longer a stonemason. He has a farm and he's living in Madison County in New York. He's also married.
Oh, okay.
To a lady called Pearl Moat, who is 17 years younger than him. And they have 3 children, Edith, John and Margaret.
We've got a song called Edith Machinist. That's weird, isn't it?
Now, just to point out the obvious, he's still married.
In England?
Yeah. So he's a bigamist.
Yeah, he's just gone. Seen a bit.
Yeah.
So, it's the taking off thing that's mad, isn't it? It's the but also, like you said, he was just a stonemason. So he wasn't
He's
like
a stonemason.
So it's like, how's he got the money for this?
Yeah. And he's just gone.
And he's just disappeared. It's been like
Just
seen a
gone.
bit. So they would have known obviously nothing about it. They should have just been like, he's just disappeared. They don't know if he's dead. They don't know if he's like, oh.
So on that census, on the 1901, his wife back here puts that she is married. On the next census, she's a widow.
So she thinks he's died?
She thinks he's died. He's not died.
He's out there living the best life in New York.
So...
on a farm.
He gets married. He has 3 children. He does seem to really thrive in New York.
Right.
He was elected onto the city council of Oneida on 2 occasions. He was also the highways commissioner. He was a member of the Elks, which was like our Freemasons. He dies on the 28th of November, 1936, aged 72, and he's buried in Stockbridge Cemetery, New York. I've got a picture of his grave if you'd like to see.
100%. What the hell? So he's basically lived a complete double life. Like, he's gone from like a stonemason to like Stockport terrace house vibes to just going to New York and basically seating and being treated like a counsellor in a...
Yeah.
What the hell?
So that is his grave next to Pearl's.
Oh, so that's... So he stayed with
Pearl, yeah.
Did she die before him?
So she died before him, yeah.
Wow, on 31. 19th. That's... I want to say it's sad, but I sort of like I've also got a bit of like a why did you?
It's a funny thing.
Yeah, you just like I'm happy. I'm sort of happy because then there's flip sides into it. There's a side where you're like, look, he's gone away. He's met someone who he obviously loved very much, and he's very happy. He could have not been happy here.
Yeah.
But then there's no excuse for taking off like that, is there? It's a coward's way to do it.
Do you want to see what he looks like?
Yeah, 100%. So this is Pearl.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because obviously he's got... God, he doesn't look anything like me, does he? Thankfully. That's mad. I find it so weird that, one, there's like really loose relatives in like New York probably now. Do you know what I mean? Like,
they're very active.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his son and family are very active. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't think they knew until they started researching that he had another family in England, because I've seen all his documentation in America. No point, as he says, he's not going to say he's married, but he's been married.
Yeah, they basically did that. He probably went over and was like...
Probably as a single man.
Yeah, it's like, yeah. Never...
Yeah.
Poor Pearl. So the Pearl's 17 years younger than him.
Yeah, she was quite a bit younger than him. But I want to keep going if that's all right.
Yeah, please.
I know it's a lot to take in, right? So we're going to keep going.
Yeah, I'm weird with him. Like, there's some parts that I admire, but there's some parts I really just like don't like about it at all.
Yeah. So we haven't really spoke much about his wife, right? The woman that he left behind.
Yeah.
So her name is Elizabeth Goodwin. And her parents, which would be your great-great-great-grandparents, are called Elizabeth Robinson and Joseph Goodwin. Before I carry on, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Do you like walking?
I love hiking.
Do you?
And love walking.
Okay. Have you ever been Mac Forest?
Yeah, love Mac Forest.
Do you?
The 10K road, yeah.
Okay. If I told you that your great-great-great-grandparents had a farm in Mac Forest, 35 acres.
35 acres?
And both them and their parents are buried in the little chapel in Mac Forest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, so it's in the blood.
It's in your blood. So
So why haven't we got it now?
Be you, me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I'm sort of like, I'm happy that they enjoyed the outdoors like I do, but also why don't you keep hold of it?
Yeah. So
he had a farm, 35 acres is that big?
So he had a farm. I went up to the chapel and their grave is in the chapel.
Really?
Yeah. So next time you go up to Mac Forest, I want you to do me a favour, right? I want you to go up the road, and when you get to the top, I want you to turn left, follow it down, and you'll come to the most beautiful chapel in the middle of nowhere. And that's where your great-great-great-grandparents are buried.
So that's...
And your great-great-great-great-grandparents are buried, the Goodwins.
Oh, so all of us, the Goodwins are in there. And
the Goodwins are in there, and their children are in there.
So that would have been their farmhouse, and they passed it down to them.
Yeah, well, they all grew up, they all lived in that area. So they moved farmhouses. They seem to go from, judging by their acreage, like bigger and better. So they start off with like 8 acres, then I think they go to 15, and then they end up with 35 acres.
So sort of expanding the business.
You're probably walking through your ancestors' fields when you go up there.
So nice, but also so annoying.
I'm livid.
Yeah, so next time I'm in them, if a farmer comes like, get out, I'll be like, I own this.
Do you mind?
Yeah, I've got some sort of right.
Get out my family tree.
Yeah, exactly. No way.
Oh, God. Right.
So that's incredible.
Yeah. So let's go on to your mum's side now.
To Hopley.
To the Hopley side. Now we're going to go back slightly. So your mum's grandparents are John Hopley and Priscilla Fernley. Mm-hmm. Priscilla's parents were John Fernley and Sophia Southwood.
That's the one, like Sophia, because my fiance is called Sophia. Do you know what I mean? It's quite a popular name now, but
it wasn't.
Yeah.
So, Sophia Southwood. Her dad, Sophia's dad, your 3 times great-grandfather was Joseph Southward. And his dad, and the reason I mention him is because he's got the best name I've ever heard of, was called Burgoyne Joseph Southward. Burgoyne Joseph Southwood, who was born in 1807 in Manchester.
Burgoyne.
I did find him on a record you might be quite interested in.
Oh, God, here we go. So Burgoyne, and then we've got Jemima on the other side.
Right, so...
And this Dorcas got some mad names floating about in our family.
So this is a record from 1841. And I don't know if you can figure him out. He's the 3rd one down. I don't know if you can figure out what this record is.
So it's in Lancaster, registered person charged with offences. So here we go again. So he's the 3rd one down. Discharged without trial.
Oh no, he was charged.
Oh, of course he was. What did he do then?
Housebreaking.
Oh yeah, it says that. Oh, so it's their accomplices. So he's not the only one.
No, there's 3 of them.
Right.
So he's charged with housebreaking and he gets 18 months hard labour in prison. But...
God, someone got transportation for 10 years. Oh, is that, sorry,
yeah,
that might be another crime.
That's another crime.
Right, okay, fair enough then. I mean, that sort of powder coat's all, it's not that bad. You know, he's not as bad as him. Yeah. He's going to the Hulk shifts, that guy. Yeah. So, but why is he doing that age? Because the other lad was 32 and 24.
But he does turn his life around.
Okay.
He does turn his life around. And I've got him on another record for you, which is the 1851 census.
So this would have been 20...
So this was 41.
Yeah.
He's in prison for housebreaking. By 51, I don't know if you can make out what he's doing for a job. He's just there. If you follow across, that's what he's doing for a job. Night watchman.
Ah, sorry, yeah. I was reading that N as a H.
I thought you would have been.
A night watchman. So what? In Manchester?
So a night watchman was basically the police.
So he's gone from just being like, well, the housebreaking thing's weird. I find weird that they got, because they got 8, so they didn't rob anything, so they're obviously trying to do something and didn't go as far as steal or...
No, so I think they broke into the house, but they obviously didn't steal anything, but it's housebreaking. Might be with intent to steal, maybe they got rumbled, before, you don't know.
But now he's working, obviously doing the night shifts for the police.
So basically, the night watchman was like the precursor to what we think of today as the modern day police. And they would literally patrol the streets at night.
People breaking in.
Yeah. Making sure people were not breaking in houses. They would have a lantern with them, the truncheon. And they would also have something called a rattle. And I've brought you a rattle.
Wow.
Now, I will say this. You might want to take your headphones off, because if he does this, you're probably going to end up deaf. So I don't know if you're going to be strong enough to do it, but you've got to rattle it round.
Right, I'll do it.
That's it. There you go.
How good's that? That's a sound, that, isn't it?
See, if only they had them at Glastonbury.
Yes.
So
does that warn people? Obviously, if you see someone, that's just to scare them off.
So he would have had a uniform, a very distinct uniform with his number on the back. He would have had a truncheon, his rattle. Some of them even had swords with them. And
that's odd.
Yeah.
Oh, he could have picked a sword, but he picked a rattle. That's I like that.
But he was a night watchman.
Wow. So is that? I wonder if that's just purely based off the fact that he used to. I don't know, because he had done it before, because he had robbed. He sort of.
I don't know. They obviously felt character-wise that he was the sort of person that was trustworthy enough to become a night watchman.
And also had done it, so knows a bit more about it also.
Joe, that is it. That is the end of our journey today.
Thank you so much.
Can I ask you one question, right?
Yeah.
It's the question I ask all my guests. If you could have dinner tonight with anybody from your family tree, right? Who would it be and why? And what would you cook them?
Oh, I'm terrible at cooking.
Are you?
I'm awful.
Are you?
But I do like cooking pasta. I love Italy. So I'd cook some sort of Italian dish. And maybe I want to speak to...
John Grattan.
John Grattan, yeah. Just because I'd want to know why he went. Because, like I say, I think there's... that side of it, just leaving and setting up, is terrible.
Yeah.
But... I don't know. I want to know his reasoning behind it. I mean, that's the biggest question for it all now. I'm like, why did you do that? Because, like I said, and just without saying anything to them, like without saying.
And they obviously believed. They obviously thought he died.
Yeah.
You know, because as I say, the 1901, his wife Elizabeth is put she's married, but then by 1911, on the next census 10 years later, she's put he's deceased. We know he's not deceased.
Yeah.
We know he's.
And even she didn't move on.
No, she never married. No.
And that's sad.
Yeah.
Because she might have felt guilt about that. Because you know what I mean. She might have thought, I don't know. I think in a dark way, that's the person who I'd want to sit down with.
Yeah.
And just be like, why and what? It's almost a grilling. Actually, I won't cook anything. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't deserve it. I've got to grill him first.
I think for me as well, I'd have to have a little chat with Jeremiah. Yeah. Why did you get locked up?
Yeah. What have you been up to? Yeah, or constantly as well.
Yeah.
He's in and out.
I think he was in and out because, as I say, he goes missing. Anyway, Joe, thank you so much. I won't keep you.
Honestly, I could sit it all day.
Thank you so much.
It's so interesting.
Yeah, thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
So that is it then for this week's podcast. It was quite a lot, wasn't it, to get in that podcast. A massive thanks again to Joe and all of the band. Thank you so much to the Blossoms for coming on. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys did too. Don't forget, if you get a chance, please check out The Power of One for me. I'll put a link to their website below. If you can just go on and have a look at some of the amazing work that they are doing. Honestly, it would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. And a massive thank you to you guys for listening. I know. Thank you. You send me messages and I really appreciate it. Please keep doing that. Don't forget, if you are enjoying these podcasts, please remember to share them, like them, subscribe, whatever you do. That'd be great. I have got some absolutely unbelievable guests coming up in the next few weeks, so please keep checking back. Make sure you subscribe, and then you should get a message through to your phone every time I release one. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great week. See you soon.